Greetings, salutations, it's me, James, your BA Sensei, back with another Power Query tutorial. In today's video, we're going to be zooming in on the table group function. We're going to be looking at all of the parameters of this function, and we'll apply it to this data set over here. We have a data set here with specific dates. You can see we have gaps in the dates, and the gaps just assumes that it's the same as the one before, the row before. And then we got the portfolio at those dates and the amount of those dates. Then we're just going to use the table group function to produce this output here, where we're going to take all of these portfolios and then comma delimit them and then give the total for each of these days. Let me show you how to do it. All right, so select your data set, go to data and say from table or range to get it open in Power Query. Now Power Query is open. You see the first step it added there is change type, and the data type there is set as date time. I don't want that. I want it to be set as date. Change that and say cool. All right, so now before we go a little bit deeper, I'm going to show you all the parameters for the group function. So first is we got parameter 1 is the table. That makes sense. The key, this is the thing that you group by. In this case, we will be looking at the date. That would be our key. The aggregated columns will basically be, we're going to aggregate on the sum of the amount, and we're going to do a concatenation of the portfolio names. Then we're going to use an optional group kind. By default, it's set to global. We're going to use a local group type, and then we're going to use the comparer to dynamically group it by, if it contains a date value, then we're going to group by that. So dynamic comparer. All right, so let's quickly jump into it. First thing is we're going to go to transform. We're going to use the UI first to start with, and we're going to go like, okay, cool. I want to group by. The key there would be, the table is change type, which is that last step over there. We want to group it by date, all right? Next thing is I want to do the sum. Let's do count rows, yeah, and I'm going to say let's do advanced and add the sum of, let's say total amount, the sum of the amount column over there, and say okay. So now you can see we got the count and we got the total amount. And let's quickly expand there. All right, so I'm just going to break it down into all of its parameters. Let's quickly format that. So the first one is the key. I'm just pressing shift and enter there. Now we're looking at the things we aggregate by. So that's the count and the total amount. And we're going to close that one out, and we're going to close that one out. So you can see we basically have the key, the table, the key, the aggregated columns. We haven't used these two optional ones. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to now use the optional one. So the first one is group kind, and we're going to say global, and we're just going to say okay. See, nothing changed because by default, if you don't choose it, it's going to do it by global. So what does that mean? If I quickly look at this null, it says there's 9 values for null. So look at this. Basically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So it's taking globally all the values in the date column, even if they're separated by other rows of data, and then doing a sum of that. All right. And the same goes for the specific dates. So that's global. But if I now go and I change this to local, it's going to change the kind of grouping. See, now we actually have something like this null. You can see it's only one of them, but this null should give us 4 nulls locally. Consecutively, there's the 4. 1, this one has 2. So if you look at that, there are 2 in there. So that basically groups it locally for the neighboring row. All right, so now with the custom comparer, we're going to add a fit argument in there, just behind the group kind local. You can see it would be this one, the optional comparer as nullable function. All right, let's put a comma in there and say, okay, shift enter. Now we can do our magic. So what we're going to do here is we are going to declare 2 variables, x and y. So it's a comparer. So x compared to y. We need to compare the key to some other value, right? So I'm going to say, okay, cool. I want to first take the, let's say y. I want to take the date field, yes, and see if is date, right? I'm just going to say, okay. Count and convert value to number. We need to just say number from there. Okay, cool. So now what it did is, it actually did exactly what we wanted. It already did that. So if you look at row 1, or first of the first, it's got 2 rows of data, that one and that one. 20 should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it conditionally grouped by those dates. Okay, so now the magic question is, why did this comparer actually work? How did it actually give you the breakdown of count, total amount, all of that? How did it do the dynamic groupings? So let me quickly show you with an example over here. So what you can see is that comparer, if you look at the formula, it basically says if y is a date. So if the key is a date, then give us a 1. If it's not a date, then give us a 0. So basically what happens is, this is a date, so make a 1. This is not a date, create a 0. And you can basically see the ones basically on the rows where the date is a date and not a null value. And what it does then is this whole function over here is your table group function. Given the date, given the aggregators, given the local group kind, then uses this to create a dynamic group. And then that group is created by these ones and zeros, and then you sit with this. But we're still not finished there, okay? So now what we need to do is, I want to go back and I want to take the portfolios and delimit them, right? So at this count, let's just call this portfolios. And instead of table each row count, right, I'm just going to say text combine. And I'm going to combine the portfolio column, and I want to combine it with by a comma. That should do the trick, okay? And there we go, there we go. That's actually the magic we just created. So just like that, let's go to close and load and bring it back into Excel. And there you go. There's your solution. It's actually quite an easy solution once you understand how all the parameters of the table group function work. And that optional comparer is quite a powerful thing to create dynamic groupings. Well, I hope you learned something new in today's Power Query tutorial. Until we meet again, BA Sensei signing out.